May I have a roll call, please?
Iannarino.
Here.
Porter.
Here.
Kane. Here. Khan.
Here.
Smolka.
Here.
Shupai.
Here.
Wong.
Here.
Thank you all for coming out this evening. If you have an interest in addressing the board, these forms can be found on a table outside the back of the theater. If you fill it out and get it to Mrs. Becker, you'll get put on the list to speak. I will also be adding an executive session to the end of the meeting, right prior to adjournment after correspondence. Dr. Thompson? Hold on a second. The mission of School District 15 is to produce world-class learners by building a connected learning community. Dr. Thompson.
This evening we have some students from Graham Sanborn Elementary School that will lead us in the pledge, and we're going to let Eric Johansson, the principal, come up and introduce those kids and tell us about them.
Good evening. My name is Mrs. Erica Johansson. I'm the principal over at Sanborn School, and these are our respectables. They are a group of leaders in our building. They have already begun to do some really great things at Sanborn. You'll hear a little bit more about it in my presentation, but at this time we're going to say the pledge. Would you all please rise?
It's up to you. Do you want them to stay for the presentation?
Would you guys like to stay to hear me talk? All right. Sounds good to me.
All right. Good evening, Mrs. Shupai, Dr. Thompson, members of the Board of Education. Thank you for having me this evening. My name is Erica Johansson, and I am the proud principal of Graham Sanborn Elementary School. I started my career as a third grade teacher at Sanborn in 1999. Over the 12 years I was at Sanborn, I taught grades 3, 4, 5, and 6. I actually learned very much from my principal, Mike Carmody, who hired me in 99. It was through these encounters that I decided to make the jump into administration. I was hired at Central Road Elementary School and worked closely with the Central Road staff. I learned a lot during my 3 years there as assistant principal. In 2013, I was very excited to be promoted to the principal position at Carl Sandburg Junior High. Talk about a paradigm shift. During my 2 years as the Carl Sandburg principal, I had many invaluable learning opportunities and developed my skill sets that have led me to my current position. Returning to the principalship at Sanborn has been a surreal experience. I feel like I've grown up there. We have a very special school community, staff, and parent population. At Sanborn, we are 621 students strong, with 55 certified staff, 26 support and custodial staff members. We have 21 general education class sections and 4 bilingual classes. In addition to that, we have a morning and afternoon ACTEC program and a full-day ACTEC classroom. We host the MILE program at Sanborn as well. These wonderful students and their staff add so much to our building. This year, they have started joining the general education students in the cafeteria for their buddy time at lunch. You met our respectables this evening. This newly formed group of students has been modeled off of the groups that currently exist at other district elementary schools like Kimball Hill and Lake Louise. In fact, it was through collaboration with these schools that allowed us quick implementation of such a club at Sanborn. Our respectables were recommended by Sanborn staff to lead our school in the 3 Tiger traits: be respectful, be responsible, and be safe. These 22 students excelled in these areas, according to their teachers. So far this year, they have helped run our PBIS school store with a staff member. They've advertised for the Dr. Cool and Pride Assembly and coordinated our Penny Wars. Our Penny War fundraiser raised over $1,000 for the Mexican Red Cross for the earthquake damage. As you know, the more involved students are in their school community, the more successful they are in academics. We have placed an emphasis on this at Sanborn School. We want more students to get involved in various activities, while still keeping in mind that many of our students depend on bus transportation to get to and from school. So it's really about maximizing the time they have at school. As in all of our District 15 elementary schools, we offer chorus and intramurals. In addition to these offerings, our staff brainstormed other options to increase student involvement at Sanborn. Some of the club offerings we have this year include our Sanborn Respectables. We have a walking club, a chess club, board games club, sunshine club, yoga club, math club, and Spanish club. And all of these clubs are offered to students in grades 1 through 6 during our noon hour. Upcoming events at Sanborn include our Veterans Day concert tomorrow evening and our annual turkey shoot, ice cream social, and family reading night on November 16th. You all are more than welcome to stop by any of these events. From the moment you enter our school, I'm confident you'll be greeted by smiling kids, enthusiastic staff, and a welcoming environment. Thank you again for having me here this evening and for your service in the District 15 community. I would be remiss in not identifying the club sponsors this evening. So Mrs. Katie Biashata, Mrs. Jackie Kravitz, Mrs. Lauren Musgrove, Mrs. Lisa Seacole, and Ms. Melissa. Thank you.
Tough act to follow there. My name is Matt Warren. I am the proud principal over at John G. Connors Learning Academy. Just a little bit about me, myself, and my experiences here. I'm a proud student of District 15 as a former Jane Addams student, and I'm a member of Winston Campus, and then on to Palatine High School. I began my teaching career at Carl Sandburg, where I taught for 6 years as a special education resource teacher. Became an assistant principal at CLA for 2 years. Then I went over to Winston Campus, where I was assistant principal for 3 years, principal for 2, and I have the pleasure of being back at John Connors Learning Academy again as the principal. I consider CLA the hidden gem of the district. We are the district's therapeutic day school as well as the early childhood learning center. Our total enrollment right now is just over 390 students, but we'll get to close to 430 by the end of the year. Students continually enroll as they turn 3. CLA is known for 4 major programs. 2 are in our therapeutic day school, 1 being the ACES program, which stands for Anger Control, Character Education, Empathy Training, and Social Skills. The therapeutic day setting in the ACES program is for students who are struggling social-emotionally who need a more structured setting and self-contained setting. We also have the Multiple Needs program, which is a therapeutic setting, self-contained as well, for students who require highly individualized support in the areas of communication, sensory regulation, and social-emotional support through modified academics. We have 2 more programs that are more wide known throughout the district in terms of our early childhood setting. Our early childhood students are all ages 3 to 5-year-olds who qualify for special education services. We offer a variety of settings and services based on the students' individual needs. There are 3 specific classrooms for students that require a much highly structured program, which is called SIP, which is Structured for Independence, which also we have that similar program going through the elementary and junior high setting. In addition to our early childhood special education programs, we also offer 7 sections of ECDEC within our preschool program. If you're not familiar with ECDEC, it's the Early Childhood Development Enrichment Center. It's a grant-funded program for students that are identified with at-risk factors. We also offer many blended programs, which is a combination of students with individual IEPs as well as in the regular education setting. So it's an exciting program, giving students as many opportunities at the levels that they need to support. A couple interesting things that we have going on this fall. We just had our Fall Fest, which is a little bit different than the typical elementary program of having the Halloween parties, where we invite all of our early childhood and preschool age students in and have a celebration. A little different than Halloween, where we celebrate and have fall activities, parents and everyone come and join, and it was a really exciting. If you didn't get a chance to see some of the pictures, we posted them online. And then this Friday, right before Thanksgiving break, a lot of our students don't have some of the traditional Thanksgiving feasts at home. So our ACEs and Multiple Needs program, we come together, we are kind of one big family, 2 separate programs, and we have a feast. All of the staff bring and prepare. We have 3 large turkeys, lots of sides and everything, and we enjoy it all in one family feast together, and really kind of practicing that family feel and addressing those social emotional needs that they have. So again, as I said, CLA is the hidden gem of the district. We invite all of you to come by, and it's a really special place. Thank you for having me.
Conyers also, and it's nice to hear what we've got going in our district that is very special. Dr. Thompson?
Yes, right now we're going to recognize some cross-country winners. The 6th grade cross-country meet was held last month, and Dr. Schnorr is going to introduce the coaches, who are going to introduce the fastest runners in each group.
If we could have the coaches and the students come up here. I'd like to have the students stand on the riser, and the coaches stand in front of them. And I'll tell you a little bit about a very hot day not too long ago, and it's really hard to believe that it was that hot. But good evening, President Shupai, Dr. Thompson, members of the Board of Education, and distinguished guests. I'm Meg Schnorr. I'm the Assistant Superintendent for Teaching and Learning, and have the honor to be in charge of also all of our extracurriculars. But we couldn't do that with all of these coaches that are here before you and these wonderful athletes. So, before you tonight, we have our 6th grade cross-country first place winners. Very exciting this year. This year, the runners performed incredibly well on a very hot and humid day. It was almost 100 degrees, hard to believe. On September 26th, they ran a mile during the 6th grade cross-country invitational. The meet was held at Rolling Meadows North-South Park, and 397 runners competed. So you guys were first out of 397 people. That is a really big deal. 6 races were held. Boys and girls races for the Green Division schools, which include, raise your hand when I say your school, Hunting Ridge, Lake Louise, Lincoln, Virginia Lake, and Paddock schools. So those are the green schools. Boys and girls races for the Yellow Division schools, which are Whiteley, Central Road, Pleasant Hill, Jane Addams, and Willow Bend schools. And then finally, boys and girls races were held for the Blue Division schools, which are Thomas Jefferson, Marion Jordan, Winston Campus Elementary, Kimball Hill, and Sanborn. Supported by their intramural coaches, the students dedicated their time and energy to the race. And as Theodore Roosevelt once said, with self-discipline, all things are possible. Many congratulations to the first place winners from each division, and now I'm going to hand over the microphone to their coaches so that they can introduce their students.
Hi, I'm Andrea Rodino from Frank C. Whiteley, and I'm proud to introduce Catherine Burrows from Whiteley. She ran the mile in 6 minutes and 25 seconds.
I'm Ryan Myrtle. I'm representing Sanborn School. Dominic Ball won for the Blue Division. He ran a time of 5 minutes and 36 seconds. That's so good. He couldn't make it tonight. His football coach wouldn't let him come to the school board meeting, so he just runs cross country for fun.
Ryan Johnson from Thomas Jefferson School, representing Natalia Walla, and her family's up there in the corner. I'd like to shout out over there. Thank you for raising such a great daughter. It makes my job a lot easier. So, her time was 6 minutes and 17 seconds.
I'm David Zola from Hunting Ridge, and I have 2 winners here. We have Ava and we have Liam. And Ava ran in 6:16, which tied our school record at Hunting Ridge. And also Liam ran in 6:02, which is our record. And I want to just give a shout out to his brother out there because his brother held a previous record at 6:04.
My name is Jordan Walker. I'm the PE teacher at Jane Addams. I'm representing right here with Devin Ashby, and his time was 5:51. I did not know he could run that fast because he was taking it easier in practice, so it surprised me very much.
So we just want to say congratulations to all the winners, all of the coaches, as well as their PE teachers who stick with them throughout the year. So congratulations.
The next item in our section is recognition of some really significant awards given out by the Illinois State Board of Education. And to present those awards, Ms. Lisa Messenger.
President Chupai, members of the board, Dr. Thompson, and honored guests. It's truly my pleasure to be here tonight in front of you. My name is Lisa Nuss. I'm the Executive Director of Personnel and Human Resources. And I'm here to introduce Those Who Excel winners. Those Who Excel is an Illinois State Board of Education recognition. People are nominated by their peers, and then our nominees are sent to the Board of Education. All 6 nominees that we sent this year were awarded honors at the state level. When I look through the people who are being honored tonight, and for that matter, all of Those Who Excel winners that we have each year, there's so many different people. There's people who have faces in the district that we've seen for many years. There are new faces to the district. They come from different backgrounds. We have teachers and board members and support staff. But there's a strong commonality on all of our winners. And those are people who, despite all the competing demands on people's time and energy in education and things that are terrible distractions at this time for public education, they've remained singly focused on one thing, and that's our students. And we have found that with people who have that as a foundation for their beliefs and their decision making, it really makes them great educators, and it really has made us the great system that we are. So for all of our previous award winners and our current award winners, on behalf of the board, we'd like to say thank you for the dedication to our district and to our students. We are so proud to have such regular representation at the state level. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to call the award winner and their nominee up here, and the nominee will share some personal stories about each nominee. And then I'm going to have the nominees stay up here till the end. Sorry, there's only 6 groups, so you just have to stay up for a little bit. I am going to start with the first person who unfortunately wasn't able to be here. She has a really young baby at home. Her name is Nicole Gavin. And what's funny is when we were talking about Nicole, Doug Carter, principal at Carl Sandburg, nominated her, but we had Erica Johansson, who you just heard from earlier, she actually hired her and she said, you know, Doug got credit for my good hire. And then this year she is now teaching at Frank C. Whiteley, so Bob is also benefiting from Erica's good hire. So thank you, Erica, for doing such a good job. Nicole won the award of recognition for early career educator. She is a gem, and we are very lucky to have her, and so is Whiteley School this year. So our first people who are present are our Lake Louise Green Team. They were nominated by Principal Jennifer Sayawani, and I'd like to invite them up in front.
Good evening, President Chupai, Dr. Thompson, board members, and distinguished guests. Thank you so much for having us here and being able to recognize the Lake Louise Green Team for their excellent work that they did last year. Just a little bit about the team. Our team is actually comprised of classroom teachers. We have Lauren Rose Coliani, she's teaching 5th grade this year. Melissa Werder, she's teaching 2nd grade. And Donna Zimmerman, she's teaching 1st grade. And Sandra Lajos is teaching bilingual kindergarten. We also have Susie Hardiman, she's our RCS, our literary expert, and we have Lori Scarpelli at the end, she's our music teacher. So that's one of the great things about our Green Team is that they are representative of instructional teams all across our building, and that's what makes it really helpful for us to work together because they bring so many different perspectives. And one of the goals our Green Team has had for the last couple of years has really been to expand our acknowledgement system and our social emotional teaching for all of our students. And so our Green Team worked together very closely to bring extra social emotional teaching to our students. We have 5 different mindsets that we work through. We just finished with perseverance. These are mindsets that go across all subject areas, and this month our focus is empathy. We also have optimism, resilience. So it's a way to help expand students' social emotional learning. We also really expanded our acknowledgement system. We have a lot of ways that we acknowledge students for following our matrix and doing the right thing. We just had a group of 50 students that we acknowledged for showing persistence in class. So it was wonderful to have the students come down and have their picture taken, be acknowledged on the announcements, and be just leaders in that characteristic in our classrooms. Our Green Team, another big part of our Green Team is looking at data every month, and we really dive deeply into data to make decisions. And we look at data all across the school, and then we noticed that one grade level had some challenges at a certain period of the day. We asked our respectables, we have a respectable team too of students. They paired up, they became lunch buddies with some students, and it was a very positive experience for both our respectables who were learning leadership and some of our students who were learning psychosocial skills. So, and that all stems here from the data and the decisions that Green Team makes. So I just want to say thank you, all of you. You put in a lot of extra time. You look deeply at data and you make some great decisions that benefit all of our students. So thank you very much.
We'd like to get a photograph for our website, so Morgan's going to take a photograph. If you kind of squeeze together there. Go ahead, Jennifer, would you go with them, please? Congratulations on this really prestigious award from the State Board of Education. And we're going to honor you with the Above and Beyond Award that we've only given out to a few dozen people in the district over the last 8 years. So wear this pin proudly. This is really something special, and thank you for being special people at Lake Louise.
Our next award recipient received the award of recognition in the category of classroom teacher. She was nominated by Jason Dietz. Unfortunately, he has a personal commitment tonight, so we're going to have Kelly Rice share a few words about Laura. And I wanted to say Turek because she just got married, but it's Pokrajak. Pokrajak?
Pokrajak.
There you go. Okay.
Thank you. My name is Kelly Rice. I'm the assistant principal here at Walter Sumlin Junior High School. Laura Pokrajak is a 7th grade science teacher at Sumlin Junior High and has been in Palatine Community Consolidated District 15 for over 9 years. For the past 2 years, Laura has helped build upon science, technology, engineering, art, and math, also known as STEAM, knowledge, and expanded the connection to the community by partnering with the Museum of Science and Industry, MSI, through the Science Leadership Initiative, SLI. Laura started working on this initiative through the MSI Teacher Advisory Council after taking teacher training courses the museum offered to science teachers in the Chicagoland area. Through her efforts, Sumlin became one of only 6 pilot schools during the 14-15 school year to help the MSI education staff with the creation of a strategic support tool and evaluation system for STEAM programming and curriculum in schools. Through her leadership and completion of a rigorous application process, Sumlin was chosen as one of 20 schools to be accepted in the MSI SLI program during the current school year, Sumlin being only one of 2 suburban schools in the entire program. Over the past year, Laura has led Sumlin SLI team consisting of teachers across all content areas through the completion of the school support tool and the development of an action plan for Sumlin Junior High. Under her leadership, the team meets monthly to review, plan, evaluate, create learning opportunities for all Sumlin students, staff, and community members about science and STEAM. Congratulations to Laura.
I have to tell you, Principal Dietz, I don't know how many times he said over and over again in district office, one of two suburban schools, she's great. I'm so proud of you. Our next award recipient received the award of recognition as a school board member. Peggy Babcock was nominated by Meg Schnorr. So Megan, Peggy.
I was one of several people who actually nominated Peggy. Peggy was nominated by the entire cabinet, but I was the one who was fortunate enough to get to talk. I just want to say a couple words about Peggy. Peggy was the school board president when I started here in District 15, and she always made me feel welcome. She always made me feel valued, and that's her current board. But when you start new, it's always great to have somebody who you know is in your corner for sure. Peggy Babcock was a fixture in District 15 schools during her tenure on the District 15 school board. As the school board president, she regularly visited each of our 20 schools, listening to teachers and administrators about what was working and what could be improved upon. She attended Thanksgiving festivities, such as Mr. Warren just talked about, with our students with special needs. She attended musicals, sporting events, and PTA fundraisers. Peggy is an avid supporter of our District 15 Foundation, which provides funding for grants that allow teachers to bring unique educational offerings to students, including STEM activities, Lego leagues, and social emotional learning opportunities such as those you've heard from our principals this evening. Peggy's civic efforts extend well beyond District 15. For 25 years, Peggy has served as a hospice volunteer at Northwest Community Hospital in their cancer center. She facilitates an Make Every Day Count cancer support group and serves as a liaison for patients, providing much needed assistance to accessing wigs after cancer treatment. She is truly someone who excels, and the Illinois State Board of Education recognized her in this with their award of special recognition. Congratulations.
We'll change the order there. Our next nominee received the Award of Excellence in the area of student support personnel. She's our speech and language pathologist at Willow Bend. Her name is Lisa Kearney, and she's here with Melissa Sabatino, her principal and nominee.
Good evening, board and distinguished guests. It's my privilege to present to you Lisa Kearney. She is a remarkable person. The level of excellence is the highest level of the award for those who excel for the state. And in front of 1,000 people, she was recognized with a short bio about her contribution here in District 15. As pervasive as the skill of speaking is, that's the scope of Lisa's contribution at Willow Bend and beyond. She provides services to pre-kindergarten students in the neighborhood, and she guides the delivery of summer supplemental opportunities for other speech and language pathologists. Her can-do attitude sets the tone at team meetings. She's a ready resource for students, parents, and teachers throughout the building. She has huge energy. She is highly organized. She's systematic in her follow-through, and that's what meets the needs of children in the long term, because that's the kind of help they need. And even as she has inspired us at Willow Bend, she has inspired her daughter. Megan is a senior in college, and she will be entering a master's program for speech-language pathology. Thank you.
Lisa, thank you. Good work. Congratulations.
And last, but surely not least, there are some people whose work happens behind the scenes. And you might not see their face, but I think anyone who works in District 15 knows this name. Pam Syke has been here as long as I can remember, I think, and I've been here a while. Pam always seems to be the constant person that if you really need to count on someone, she's there for you, no matter what the task may be. I'm very jealous that she works in another department outside of personnel. So we're going to have Pam Syke come up front. She was awarded the Award of Excellence for Educational Service Personnel, and she was also nominated by Meg Schnorr.
Okay, so I have to say, this is very fun. This Pam is my buddy. Pam is my senior executive administrative assistant, but she is really the senior executive administrative assistant of every administrator in this room and probably in the district, because she helps everybody at least at a minimum on a weekly, if not a daily basis. As the Department of Instruction Senior Executive Assistant, Pam is indispensable to District 15. Our district is very large, as you know, and it requires Pam to interact with over 50 administrators as well as other school staff on a weekly basis. And she treats each interaction with care. Pam has established a reputation for providing accurate, prompt, and gracious service with a smile that you can hear in her voice if you are fortunate enough to speak with her face to face. Pam is an excellent steward of the district's resources. She treats the Department of Instruction's budget as if it were her own checkbook. And it is a lot more complicated than a personal checkbook. We're talking about district, federal, and state funding. And I'm telling you, it is down to the penny. Pam understands the role of the district office and that it is to support the teachers and the building administrators who are so important in the lives of our students. And she strives to get the needed materials and information into their hands before they even have a chance to ask for it. It is for this reason and a multitude of others that the Illinois State Board of Education recognized Pam with its highest level of those who excel awards, the Award of Excellence. Congratulations.
In conclusion, I just wanted to let everyone know, I've been in the district for a very long time. I've been here over 20 years. And as I look at our award recipients, there were people here when I got here and people who were hired with me and people who I hired. And it is such a great privilege to call these people my colleagues. We are a family, and as much hard times as we may go through at times, we know that in the long run, we're all here for the same purpose, and that's to educate children. And I thank all of you people that have devoted your time and energy to those students that are so precious to us. Thank you.
I'd like to say that, speaking for the board, we are very fortunate to have so many dedicated and talented people who are passionate about giving to our students and our community. It's the people that give with everything that they have that make District 15 what we are. Thank you.
And all those recipients are free to leave now. And I got hard work to do tomorrow. If you want to leave, go ahead, please. It won't be a problem for any of us. But there's an exciting presentation coming up next, the 5-year forecast, financial forecast for
Good afternoon. Good evening, I'm sorry. President Thompson. I did it every year. Superintendent Thompson, President Shupai, esteemed members of the board, I apologize. Every November, we update the board with our five-year financial projections. It's the way we put this together, myself and my staff, it's a huge, massive spreadsheet that we've actually developed in-house in the business office. We've been doing this ever since I've been in the district for the 2010-2011 school district. We present it every November and every June as well. So the format that you've got in front of you is the same format that you've seen that we presented to the board for the last 6 or 7 years. So if we look at the first slide, we begin with the tax levy. Our Director of Finance, Corey Bolzenbauer, will be presenting our proposed tax levy for our 2017 tax levy, about 2 more items down on the agenda. But an important part of our financial projections is our tax levy, since it provides about 78 to 80% of the revenues in the district. What we assume going forward is $10 million in new growth, beginning with the 2017 levy, which we'll be discussing 2 items down on the agenda. The average that we've had in new growth in the last 5 years has been about $10.3 million. We've also added this year $35.8 million in new growth with the 2020 levy, since we're going on 5 years, which affects the 21-22 fiscal year, and 12.5 in 2021. That's for expiring TIFs that we have in the district. The TIFs are the tax increment financing districts that were created. They're for 23 years. They can be extended. We don't believe at this point that neither one of those TIFs will be extended, I should say. So we've added at least what we know the value of those TIFs are today. So there's a base value that's assessed that TIF district grows in value, and then when it expires, the district can avail itself of that growth in the EAV. So that's the two changes that we've made for the forecast this year for the expiring TIFs. We assume a 1.5% CPI for all future years. Through September 27, CPI currently is 2.23%, which is higher than it is, higher, 2.23% higher than it was in 2016. So that, however, decreases over the final three months of the year. Last year at this time was probably about the same. So CPI for last year was 2.1%. So we're going to assume it's probably going to be right around there going forward. 0.7. So for comparison purposes, it was 0.7% in 2015 to 0.8% in 2014. 10-year rolling average since the inception of PTEL, which goes back to about 1994-95, anywhere from 1.82 to 3.05%. So we're almost kind of right in the middle on that. The Federal Reserve has set a target inflation rate of 2%. Every 0.5% increase in the CPI affords the district approximately an additional $600,000 in revenue. So we're conservative at this point. We're assuming, again, 1.5% in future years. If that comes in at 2%, that's $600,000, which compounds over the years. State aid on the next slide. It's the first year of the new funding formula through the passage of Senate Bill 1947. That's also known as the evidence-based funding model. So the school funding is tied to 27 different essential elements that research has shown enhances student achievement. Some of those items include core teachers. What are the class size targets for grades K through 3, 4 through 5, 6 through 8, 9 through 12? Specialist teachers, music teachers, art teachers, media center specialists, instructional facilitators, gifted education, special education. How much does the district spend on assessment, maintenance, and operations? There's also assessments in there for central office staff, our English learners in our district, computer technology, the ratio of principals and assistant principals at the buildings. So what the new formula does is look at those 27 different elements and develops what's called an evidence-based funding model for each and every district. What's interesting about that is before I could calculate exactly what GSA is, and we were funded on general state aid, we can no longer do that because this formula is so complex. In fact, the Illinois State Board of Education still has not released what the final allocations are for every district this year. We've got preliminary ones, but again, it's so complicated that we have to rely on ISB to release what those numbers are. Continue on that, faculty and staff salaries are based on statewide averages, adjusted by regional wage differences. So obviously, if a district is located in Cook County or the Collier counties, there's more funding given to those districts that are in the Chicagoland area than districts that are downstate. All of that goes together. A BFM, or a basic funding minimum, is established for each district to ensure that no district receives less state funding because of the new funding formula. In that new funding formula, every district is guaranteed to receive at least as much funding going forward as it did in 16-17. So there's a whole harmless provision in there. So whatever every district received last year, the district is guaranteed to receive at least that much money. Unless the state legislature reduces the appropriation for public education in the state, then that would be prorated and we could receive less money. So once again, every district is still dependent upon the total amount of funding that's allocated by the legislature every year. That BFM, base funding minimum, it's guaranteed on a per district basis as opposed to a per pupil basis. So if you look at the next slide, we looked at what our state aid was for 2016-17. Our GSA, as we call it, state aid, almost $10.2 million. Special ed services was 1.6. We got reimbursed for our special ed personnel to the tune of $2.6 million. State aid summer school, $11,000. And bilingual, $843,000. That total was $50,286,000. Our BFM for the 2017-18 school year is $15,281,000. $5,000 adjustment, not quite sure. We got that $5,000 out of that, but not a 15.2, we're not too concerned about that. Other sources of state aid, special ed private facility, we're assuming that the same for next year, $370,000. Our reimbursements for special ed individual orphanage, about $206,000. Special ed summer orphanage, which is another categorical for special ed services, a little over $16,000. And the amount of money that we get for our school lunch. So about total for the district, about $15.9 million in state aid. It's also irrespective of what the district gets reimbursed for transportation. That's on a reimbursement formula. That's calculated every year. The allocation statewide is about $205 million. So as transportation costs go up statewide in other districts, our reimbursement goes down a little bit. We get about $4.1 million approximately on our state aid transportation reimbursement. And again, that's outside of the BFM. And we actually calculate what that is, because we know what our costs are. We have the state reimbursement formula. We've actually recreated our own Excel spreadsheet, so we can do different scenarios and actually calculate out what that is. Each district has set an adequacy target based on its local revenues, which includes property taxes and CPPRT, which is commercial personal property replacement taxes, and our BFM. The goal of the new funding formula is to have each district meet its adequacy target. Our adequacy target in District 15 is 82%. So because we're at 82%, we're not at 100%. That's why we see the $15 million in state aid on the BFM. Going forward, to ensure that one of the goals of the new funding formula was to close the funding gap, to make sure that those districts that are below the adequacy target get to 100%. Because there's districts in the state, there's a lot of districts in the state that are over 100%, 180%, 200% and higher. So the goal of the funding formula is to make sure every district gets to 100%. So districts are divided into 4 tiers, with tier 1 being the neediest school district. District 15 is in tier 2. So if there's new dollars that are appropriated to public education over and above what was appropriated in the 16-17 school year, 50% of all new dollars will go to tier 1 districts. And then the way the formula works, if you're in tier 1, they go through a formula, then you automatically go into tier 2. So tier 1 districts get tier 1 dollars, they get tier 2 dollars. We're in tier 2. Tier 2 districts get 49% of all new dollars. Tier 3 gets 0.9% of all new dollars. And if you're tier 4, you get 0.1% of new dollars. So you can see what the state's really trying to do is to close that gap. Close that funding gap for those districts that are not making their adequacy target and getting them up to 100%. So as we look at our 5-year forecast, we go out 5 years, we assume no increase in the BFM through the 21-22 school year. Now obviously, hopefully, we hope to see more state aid dollars, which will increase the funding to us since we're in tier 2. We obviously have knowing what that is today. So to be conservative, we assume that the BFM stays the same. On the next slide, our assumptions on expenditures. We assume a 5% annual increase in health benefit costs. Our 7-year average, we're self-funded for health insurance. From the 2010-2011 to the 2017-2018 school year, our average increase has been 2.42%. So we've been below the 5%, so we feel comfortable with the 5% as a target. We assume 1.5% increase in supplies, materials, and purchase services, and that really matches the CPI target of 1.5% that we're assuming when we do our tax levy. 2% annual increase in utilities. We're actually locked in for natural gas through June 30th, 2020, and we work closely, with electrical and gas, we work with our supplier and we buy our gas over the summer months and store it for the winter, so that when we burn that gas when the prices are high, so we don't want to be buying on the spot market. Capital expenditures, we did meet with the board in September and presented some capital projects for 18-19. The board target has been about $3 million a year for capital projects. We did discuss it again, as I said, in September, and there's about $7.5 million we have in our 18-19 budget for capital projects. $500,000 to replace the parking lot at County's Learning Academy, Pleasant Hill carpeting for $275,000, replace the curtain wall at Plum Grove at $4.2 million, and finish the Frank C. Whiteley curtain wall project, which is $2 million. That was actually over three fiscal years, 16, 17, 17, 18, 18, 19, 3 fiscal years, 2 summers, summer of 17, summer of 18, and then the associated architectural engineering fees for those projects as well. So about $7.5 million in capital projects for 18, 19, a little bit higher than we have spent in the past, irrespective of our life safety bonds, but they are one-time only expenditures, so not recurring expenditures. We assume a 1% salary increase for all employees upon expiration of their current negotiated agreements. The CTC contract expired in 2026. When we settled that contract, we said that our average increase would be less than 1% per year. Our 15-16 salaries for CTC were just under $67 million. We estimated back then that our salaries for CTC would be $66.6 million. When the audit was done, it came in at $66.5 million. Back then, we estimated our CTC salaries for the current year would be $67.8 million, $67,825,000. Where we're at this year, our FTE is a little bit below 880, but when we equalize that to 880, our salaries are $67,832,000. So from an estimate 2 years ago, we're $7,000 off from 880 positions, which is a variance of 0.0001%. So basically, we're right on line. I don't have it in the PowerPoint. We've already estimated our salaries for 18-19. So what our salaries are for 17-18. We're on the salary schedule. We can advance them by their step. And we're basically right on target for 18-19 as well. So we feel real confident about all the salaries that we estimated for the CTC contract. We continue to plan for annual lane advancement costs of about $200,000. We assume attrition of about $425,000. I think this year, I calculated that out, and I think we came in around $475,000 to $500,000 on attrition savings. Those are teachers that, for a variety of reasons, taught in 16, 17, and don't come back in 17, 18. So we kind of have a good pattern on that, history pattern on what those savings are. I think 2 years ago, the attrition savings was actually a little over $600,000. So we feel real comfortable about those two portions of our estimates. The SBA contract expired in 2017. Currently negotiating with the SBA. Currently negotiating with SEIU. That contract expired in 2017 as well. Last contract is DTU, which is our transportation union. That contract expires in 2020. On the next slide, we look at our revenues by fund through 21-22. Our total revenues before transfers this year, $163.4 million, which included $9.3 million of our life safety bonds. And as we look at our revenues by fund, it goes down 17-18, obviously, because we don't have, we didn't sell life safety bonds, $153 million. And then slowly trends upward, and we're at $164 million in 21-22. That has to do with those TIFs expiring and the additional revenue that the district will realize because of the expiration of those TIFs. If we look at the next slide, the expenditures by fund, total expenditures in 16-17 are audited expenditures of $164 million. That, again, had about $14.3 million of health life safety funds. And then as we look at that going out, 17-18, we still have some health life safety funds, about $6 million to finish our projects from the summer of 17. And then starting in 18-19 school year, that drops off. And then we kind of trend upward. In 18-19, we have $7.5 million in capital projects. 19-20, our expenditures are $157, and then starts trending upwards to about $161.8 million in 21-22. So if you look at the fund balances on the next slide, As we look at what our projected fund balances are, they're $66.9 million. Those are artificially high because we have the excess money from the life safety funds. But if you look at 21-22, our ending fund balance is almost $57.6 million, or about 36% of expenditures. And we've talked about that at the board level. ISB recommends a fund balance ratio of 25%. The board's kind of set a target between 30 and 35%. So as we look at 21-22, we're really right on target for where we want to be. We don't have any inherent deficit problems going on. We're actually building fund balance a little bit, so we're actually in a real strong financial position. As we look at what's going on today, and where everything is at in the future. However, a big however is Senate Bill 851. Senate Bill 851 says for every district that's subject to PTEL and has a majority of their EAP in Cook County, which we're in Cook County, Lake, McHenry, Kane, DuPage, and Will, the extension limitation is 0% for the 2017-2018 school year. That passed the House Revenue and Funding Committee by an 8-1 vote last week. It's on the House floor for consideration. So the last slide, when we looked at an ending fund balance of $57.6 million in 21-22, if Senate Bill 851 were to pass, our ending fund balance would be $37 million. So we lose almost $20 million over a 4-year period if Senate Bill 851 passes. The way that works, the increase that we would receive in our tax levy, let's say it's $2.5 million this year based on the CPI, that's $2.5 million we don't get this year, plus every year thereafter. And then the 2018 levy is 0%. So then that's another $2.5 million on top of the 2. So then now we're down $5 million, and that compounds every year into the future as well. So if that passes, then again, we're losing about $20 million over a 4-year period, and then that goes into the future as well.
Mike, give me some perspective on what that means in terms of percentages. Does that drop our fund balance percentage from 35% to 20 and a couple, or there's a pretty good size gap then?
Yeah, as I look at that, 160 million, 20% is 32. It's probably about 21%. Yeah. We would be below 25%, and we would be below the ISB target.
Right.
And at that, even at 21-22, the expenditures exceed the revenues at that point. So we have a structural deficit at that point. So if that were to pass, at some point prior to the board could decide not to make any budget reductions, but we would be looking at making budget adjustments prior to that because we couldn't operate with a structural deficit long-term into the future.
So if it passes, what we're doing right now is absolutely not sustainable.
It's not sustainable if that passes, correct.
Thank you.
Any further questions from Mike? All right, thanks very much. Mike, do you want to introduce, would you like to introduce the representatives from Miller Cooper to talk to us about our audit?
We have John, and I apologize for I forgot your last name already. Epperson is from Miller Cooper, and he's got Eric here.
Eric's going to sit here and watch me.
He's going to watch John make the presentation, so you got the microphone.
All right, thank you very much. Good evening. My name is John Epperson. I'm the senior manager at Miller Cooper, and I was part of the audit team for the first time this year, coming on board. So I can tell you it's a very pleasurable experience working with Mike and Corey, the finance team. They were very helpful and very efficient in getting us all the information that we needed. So the things that I want to go over tonight are really, we deliver to you 3 things. We deliver to you a board letter. It's about a 5-page letter or so. I'm not going to go over everything in complete detail. I'm just going to go through the highlights of that real quick. So it basically details out our responsibilities and the accounting standards and auditing standards we're required to file. Discusses sort of out the fact that we're independent to the district as a whole. It goes over future accounting pronouncements that will be effective for the district and ones that were implemented in the current year. The only one that's really of importance for next year is the SB 75, which deals with other post-employment benefits. there's going to be a remeasuring of those liabilities, and those will be put onto the books of the district. There's a small portion on there now, but it's going to be reevaluated next year. The other things that we go through in this letter are to talk about other significant accounting estimates and inform you of any material corrected or uncorrected misstatements. And I can inform you that we did not have any corrected or uncorrected misstatements, which we deemed material throughout our entire audit process. We also inform you that we didn't have any difficulties encountered during the audit. Everything fairly smoothly, fairly efficiently, and like I said before, Mike, Corey, and the team were great at getting us everything we needed to complete the audit in a timely fashion. The next letter I'm going to present to you is just a 2-page letter. This is a management letter, or what we also refer to as a control efficiency letter. Throughout our audit process, we're required to gain an understanding of internal controls as various transactions. Not all transactions by any means, but if there were any deficiencies that we noted within the policies and procedures that the district has in place, we would be required to inform you of those and look at them based upon their severity of either material weakness, significant deficiency, or control deficiency. I'm glad to inform that we didn't have any deficiencies to the transactions that we tested that met any of those definitions. There is one matter included in here that we've taken the time to inform all of our clients about, and it's more about the risks these days with technology. You hear in the news these days about data breaches and stuff like that. It's not exclusive to big corporations. It can happen in school districts, governments, and everything. So it's just more of a recommendation that if you don't have a policy, to develop a technology policy and to at least update it or look at it on a regular basis, at least annually, to determine if, because technology is always changing, that your policies and procedures are up to date. Any questions on the letters? The financial statements themselves, I'm not going to go over them in all the numbers in detail. For the most part, the numbers are old. These are from 6/30. You guys have been informed by the finance team about those numbers in the past. I'm just going to go over sort of the structure of the financial statements to give you an overview, to help you maybe read it a little bit better, and then ask questions at the end. Page 1 of the financial statements, which is actually a couple in, is actually our opinion of the financial statements. The main thing that goes in here, and what we are doing this entire audit for, is to give an opinion on the financial statements, that they're stated with all material respects, that they're fairly stated. And I can tell you that we've issued an unmodified or clean opinion, so there were no modifications. Everything was, it's the highest level of assurance that we can provide any of our clients. Beginning on page 5 is a management discussion and analysis. And I always like to point this out to our boards, because this is sort of like the cliff notes of the financial statements. It's written by management, and it includes a lot of the financial information, some policies and other highlights of the district, some summarized information that's really good information to have without having gone through or having to go through all of the data in the 100 pages behind this section. Beginning on page 14 of the financial statements is the statement of net position. There are 2 bases of accounting you report on. This is more like your traditional, how you would see like a corporation. We take all the funds, smush them together, and report things such as capital assets as assets, and the depreciation that's associated with them, and long-term liabilities that would normally be considered other financing sources is here as a liability to come down to a total net position of the district. Page 15 is the income statement. If you're thinking about a traditional corporate entity, it shows all of the revenues and expenses on a government-wide level that the district has received and expended during the current period. Page 16 and 17, these are each of your individual governmental funds that are presented. This is the balance sheet for those funds. And it does not include things like capital assets, which are expended as you make those purchases, or any long-term debt, which again is considered an other financing resource as those debt obligations are issued. In between these pages, 18 and 21, are going to be reconciliations that bridge the gap between the 2 different types of accounting, bases of accounting that there are. Page 23 of the financial statement starts the notes of the financial statements. This is many policies and procedures and a lot of more detailed information that you'll find is summarized in other parts of the financial statements. Page 63, I know I'm moving ahead here. This is sort of just the required supplementary information section. It's multi-year schedules of pension liabilities for IMRF and the teacher's retirement system. And it also includes some various budget to actual schedules for some of the major funds, and also compares to the prior year. And really the last section of the financial statements, beginning on page 92, is our supplemental financial information. It's some combining schedules, and again, some more budget to actual comparison schedules and some long-term debt schedules for multi-year schedules of long-term debt. That being said, is there any questions on the financial statements?
Guess not, thank you very much. And if there are questions that pop up later, we know how to reach them, we can send them to them. All right, the next item in my section is proposed tax levy. Corey Wolfmeyer is going to give us that information.
Good evening, President Shupai, Dr. Thompson, members of the board. We have a presentation on the 2017 tax levy. We're going to cover a few things. We're going to cover some background information. We'll review the levy calendar, cover a calculation of the actual tax extension, look at the new growth and the limiting rate affecting the tax rate, and then look at a summary of the 2017 proposed levy. Just starting with a little background. As we've mentioned earlier, property taxes make up a vast majority of our revenue. Usually over 3/4 of the district's total revenue is in property taxes. Just a couple of key terms that we like to use when discussing the levy. Just want to clarify. So if you hear the term tax extension, that would equate to what is the total amount of property taxes billed out to individual residents and businesses and owners, whereas the tax levy is the amount of money that we are asking for, not necessarily what is actually billed. On the flip side, when you think about the value of a property, the market value is generally relatively what someone would buy it or sell it for. However, when it's taxed at EAB. EAB represents roughly 1/3 of the market value of a property. The calculation of our levy is subject to PTEL, as Mike referred to earlier. We usually refer to that as just the tax cap instead of PTEL. PTEL impacts all the school districts in Cook County and many other counties. There's several counties as well downstate that have passed that law as well. What PTEL does is that limits our operating fund levy to an increase in the prior year's CPI plus any new growth. New growth is generally new construction of homes or businesses within the community. If the district would decide to levy less than the CPI in any given year, it would be something that deemed that they have lost and would never be able to recover going forward. So whatever CPI is or any new growth, if you don't capture it in the year that it's available, you lose it forever. So, something to think about big picture, is something that may seem small now, assuming that PTEL stays in effect, would carry on, through infinity. As I mentioned, each year's levy sets the foundation amount by which taxes may level the following year. That's true of the vast majority of our funds. The one exception would be the debt service. Anytime a district issues bonds, all the documents are supplied to Cook County. We don't necessarily have to ask for it. They have exactly how much we need to make our principal and interest payments each year. And they just add it to our total extension when they're going through the final calculations in the spring each year. Then the next slide has it's kind of a state word picture of all the counties, which ones were subject to PTEL, which ones voted for it, which ones were forced to have it. Some have rejected it. You see several that have never had a vote, so they just kind of go with a more traditional model where you have a value times the rate equals the amount of taxes they collect. The one interesting thing about a way to think about PTAL is, common sense would say like the value of my home times the fixed rate is what my taxes are going to be. If you're a PTAL district in one of these PTAL counties, the rate is the variable that changes every year. The assessor assesses the value of your home. We know how much we're able to collect in total. They kind of work their way backwards. So the rate really does fluctuate as home values or property values. The total value of our district's property were to grow in any given year. If it were to grow faster than what CPI is, we would see our rate decrease. On the flip side, as we recently went through the recession, for the last several years, what we actually saw was large decreases in our overall EAV, but the rate spiked because we were still able to collect that CPI increase each year. The next slide has the tax levy calendar that we're subject to tonight. As required, we're providing an estimated the taxes to be levied. The next board meeting in December will bring back the final amount that the board would need to approve, and then we would just need to file with our Cook County by the last Tuesday in December. Next, we have a chart that shows the CPI amounts for the last 6 years and then new growth for the last 5. As you can see, 2017 will be the first time after 4 straight declines in CPI rates at 2.1%. And as Mike mentioned earlier, we've been hovering around an average of 10 million in new growth per year. Our next slide shows, the primary reason we have this, it looks a little bit confusing at first glance, but really what we want to convey is that as we budget, any given levy year is going to affect two budget years, 2 fiscal years that the district operates in. The next slide shows a few key numbers that are relevant. For the 2016 tax year, the district had a 3.5 billion in EAV. We are estimating, and this is consistent with what we've had in the 5-year forecast, an EAV change of roughly 2%, and then a 10 million in new growth. So we're estimating that the total EAV for 2017 would be roughly 3.6 billion. Now, as we get into the calculation of the limiting rate on the next page, we have the formula on the top half, and some of the key numbers down below. The key thing that I take away from this is, what do you ultimately get to that rate? That's what we're gonna, we know in total we're gonna go up by, roughly 2.1%. But what that limiting rate comes to is kind of really plays into what the value of that new growth is in any one given year. So as we look at the value on the next slide, the value of the new growth and the limiting rate, the thing I always like to focus on this slide is, we've assumed 10 million in new growth for several years now. Is, what is the value of 10 million in new growth, worth to the district in any given year? Well, at the current rate that we're projecting, that's roughly 338,000 in additional revenue. So if we were to, as we all know, there's some new home projects going on, there's some other developments. If that were to, double, then you would be looking, something around 700,000. So that would roughly get us to a 2017 tax extension of $122.1 million. The next slide shows, what we wanted to show was, what is the 2017 estimated impact to homeowners? And we have property values of 200,000, 150,000, 100,000. And while, the takeaway can be from this slide that, at least as it relates to District's 15 portion of anyone's tax bill, we're estimating roughly a 0% change. There are some things that can impact that, so we come back next year and you ask me, well, why wasn't it, exactly as I projected? Even though the 2017 tax year will not be an assessment year for people that live in this community, one of the things that can play into the formula that can throw this off is Cook County, when they assess stuff, when they assess property from a tax perspective, instead of using 1/3 like everybody else, they do 1/10 for residential property. This forces the state to come in and provide an equalization factor. And if you were to look up what the Cook County equalization factor is every year, it changes. So while many of you will likely not see, because your property was assessed last year, it should stay the same for 3 years, you could actually see on your tax bill, it could be different because if the Cook County equalization factor rises, it's going to increase in value. And that's something where the state takes data from every county throughout the state. What they're trying to say is if everybody's supposed to be taxed at 1/3 of their market value, they want it to be fair and equal. And when Cook County, wants to assess at 1/10, they come in and adjust it to try and level the playing field. The next slide shows the calculation of the aggregate extension. The last 3 years are the 2014, 15, and 16 columns are actuals. The 2017 is an estimate. As mentioned before, we get down to the bottom, we'd be looking at last year's extension, not counting debt service, was $119.3 million. And we'd be looking at roughly $122.1 for 2017. And just for reference sake, I actually looked this up this afternoon. As we look at new growth, and if you're wondering if there's ever been any big spikes, going back to like the year 2000, as more of a mature community as it relates to new growth, many of the years have been, hovering around 10 million. The largest, going back to 2000, there was 1 year that had 56 million in new growth. The last slide you'll see is just a summary by fund. It has 2016 actual amounts, includes debt service, has the middle column is an estimated. That's what we're estimating the extension to be, as I mentioned earlier, which would equate to property tax billings. The far right column, which is labeled the 2017 tax levy request, why is that different? As I mentioned earlier, through the process, they require us to ask for an amount. Kind of one problem with how this process works is we don't know exactly how much that new growth is. And as I mentioned, it can be, quite valuable to any school district. So essentially, we have to balloon our request or levy amount higher than what we know, higher than the 2.1. So if you were to do the math, the far right column, the 123.95 is 3.9% higher than the 119,299. So the reason we do that is just it gives us room. So as Cook County finalizes our rates and finalizes our extension, it allows us to capture all that new growth within the community in any given year. Any questions?
Corey, can you explain the property tax impact? It seemed like everything was kind of flowing at a CPI amount or something roughly around a CPI amount. The change from the prior tax year on here seems lower.
Right, yeah. So if you look at it, for a $200,000 home, the way the formula works as we estimated, it shows, it's like a 20-cent decrease or basically the same. So as I mentioned, one of the problems with estimating that in that formula of calculating what if you had a home that was the market value was $200,000, one of the problems in estimating is that we don't know what that equalization factor is. So last year the equalization factor was 2.8032. Well, if this year, and some of the meetings that I've attended, they've kind of alluded to the fact that it's very possible the equalization factor could be slightly higher. So even though your tax bill will say the assessment's going to be, your assessed or your total value is $200,000, when you plug it into the formula, if that equalization factor were to jump up to 2.9 or to 3, it would actually, even though your value hasn't changed in the formula as it would, and at that point, you could potentially see a larger amount. So it's, as I said, there's some estimates in there. It's
for an individual property owner, though, would it be closer to a 2% increase?
Yeah.
On the district portion.
Yeah. Another factor in that could also be the rate, the overall value of the community's property, whether it would go up or down. Also,
equivalent to the community.
Yeah. Right. So, was there any changes, particularly in large owners, such as businesses, or any allocation between businesses or residential? It's really an estimation. I wouldn't, when it's all said and done, I wouldn't expect it to be, roughly 0. I would expect it to go up or down slightly. But as the information that we have at hand, and as we try to estimate the best we can, that's what the formula kicks out of this particular time.
Question really quick here. So at what point do we capture the new growth, and at what point is CPI locked in for us to know what it is? Is it going to be sometime in 2018 where we know that the new growth is calculated in February or March, what the new growth actually was in the 2017 calendar year?
So, as far as locking it in from our perspective, so next month when we make that levy request, as long as our levy request is at least 2.1% higher than last year, now we've locked in CPI, and if we go above that enough to capture the new growth, any new growth, we've locked that in. Now, as far as Mike or I knowing exactly how much new growth did we have, we're not going to know that until the spring. So, if it's under there.
Yeah, so what happens is, so we know what CPI is, obviously it's 2.1%, because it's the CPI for 2016 goes into the 2017 levy. So 2.1%, that's locked in. We get a levy edit report around May from Cook County and from the Cook County Clerk's office. That's when we'll know what the actual new growth is. So probably, usually that's in May. So we'll know in May.
And then one other question with the pending legislation in Springfield, how would that affect the ability to levy taxes moving forward? If it freezes the property tax, are we stuck where we're at with no additional growth opportunities? If there isn't growth, are we essentially stagnant where we're at?
We don't know, but when we read that, it says our extension is at 0%. So Corey and I are assuming if the extension is 0%, that's no new growth at all. So on the slides where our extension was $121 million, there's no new growth, there's no CPI. It would be the same thing for the 2017 levy and the 2018 levy.
And just something now that I've heard going to, whether it's meetings with other school business officials or ad-rep meetings, it's something, the idea of a property tax, like a 0% property tax freeze, this is not new. It's been out there for a couple of years. It always seems to have different variations, and at different times they've talked about, okay, it's a hard freeze, no new growth at all. At times, there's people have, the rumors are there's going to be a caveat that allows school districts to capture the new growth, but all the existing stuff, so the 2.1% would be gone, but you'd be able to capture any new growth within a community. So I think there's just a lot to be laid out on that.
I have a question with regards to new growth. So the rate at which you tax new growth, is that what the 3.38 is?
Yeah. So as you go to, I think it's the second from the end, the calculation of maximum aggregate extension slide. Yeah, 3.38. As I mentioned earlier, that rate for existing homeowners, doesn't really play much of a role at all. However, where it is, in my opinion, is huge, is that is the rate that any new growth comes on. So, one of the things that Mike and I talked about was, as we got into the late 2000s and the early 10s, when property value was, really declining, and that limiting rate was shooting up, any new growth was much more valuable to the district. Well, the problem in that scenario is that there's generally not much new growth, during a recessionary period. So, in an area, then on the flip side, as that rate declines, in times where we typically see a lot more building and new construction, it becomes per dollar of new growth, it becomes less valuable. So,
Okay, thanks. Anything else for Corey?
So Corey, we'll have this back in December and accept the levy at that time and then deliver it to Cook County by December 26th.
Yep.
Okay, great. Thanks very much. The irony is that, and Frank may talk about this later, but the state has just passed this evidence-based funding model to make funding more equitable throughout the state. They've said they're going to infuse more dollars into it, and yet on the same token, they've got this bill that they're considering that would limit any kind of new money for any school district in the state, so it's kind of paradoxical. The last item in my section is really just a quick report on the 90 North Schaumburg TIF. We had a conference call this week, Dan Cates and I did, with Brian Townsend, the village manager at Schaumburg. Unfortunately, he forgot about that, so we've got to reschedule that. But they have a meeting on the 14th next week, and I think they're going to have a little bit more detail. And we're going to talk to Brian about some of the things that we'd like to see as part of the process. Impact fees. Will they provide some impact fees for those residential units that could be pocketed by the school district in case we do get kids? Is there a possibility that they could put aside some TIF funds, and if children do come from these residential units, which they claim will not, if they do come, then this fund can pay for the education of the child. That currently it's a little over $13,000 a year, and they can put some TIF money away if indeed children were generated by these residential developments. We're going to ask them about, is there any property that they could give to the school district in case in the future we wanted to build a school down in that particular neck of the woods. We'll also talk to them about redesigning their concept, where of the 2,400 units, the residential units that they're proposing in the last draft, the vast majority were District 15. What about flipping it so that more residential units were in District 54? District 54, about, 15 or 20 years ago, had 17,000 kids. They have 28 buildings. This year, they've only got about 14,000 kids. So I think they've got plenty of space for kids, where we have not lost, 3,000 kids and have room for 3,000 extra kids in our district. So we're going to ask them to consider maybe flipping design a little bit, putting the entertainment portions of that development on our side of the line and more residential on their side. So we'll be talking with them, and I'll let you know what the outcome of those discussions are. That's it for my section.
Anybody have questions on the 90N TIF district? All right, may I have a motion for the reading and acceptance of minutes, please?
Make a motion to approve the minutes from the following meetings of the Board of Education: October 11th, 2017, special Board of Education meeting and executive session, and the October 11th, 2017, regular Board of Education meeting as presented.
Second?
Second.
Any discussion? Roll call.
Iannarino.
Aye.
Border.
Aye.
Kane.
Aye.
Khan.
Aye.
Smolka.
Aye.
Shupai.
Aye.
Wong.
Aye.
Motion carries. We will commence the board discussion and reports. May I have Ed Council legislation update? Mr. Iannarino.
As Mike already mentioned, Senate Bill 851 has moved out of committee and can be passed any time on the floor of the House. As he said, that would freeze our property taxes for 2 years, so we'd not be able to generate any new revenue above and beyond what's already currently being taxed. Unfortunately, that would take control of our school district's finances out of the hands of the local governing boards, which is, not a good thing. I think it's best that we keep that local, let the communities decide what they want to do with their tax money. Though, as you can imagine, this may be something that's very popular with your average taxpayer. We'll see how it goes. It's something that everybody should contact their representatives and let them know how they feel about the situation so that your voices can be heard. That's about it.
All right, thank you. 1-5 Foundation, Mrs. Kay?
At the fun part. So for anybody who didn't go over the weekend last Saturday, there was a District 15 volleyball tournament by the 1-5 Foundation, which is a charitable foundation that helps implement cool projects in schools that teachers and others in the buildings dream up and apply for funding for. It was awesome. If anybody got to go see it, we have some pretty incredible volleyball players in our district, probably some who wouldn't have considered themselves volleyball players before they played. There are 2 divisions. There's a competitive division for those who are very serious, and there are plenty of very serious players here. And then an exhibition division. So the winners of the competitive division were Winston Camps Junior High, and they were solid. And then there was the exhibition division, and the winners for that were Kimball Hill. I got to watch that one again. I got to say it was awesome. They were having so much fun out there. If you didn't get to go, I highly recommend going next year. And by next meeting, I should have an idea of how much was raised from a fundraising standpoint. That will then go to the winning schools to determine what kind of programming they want to implement with those fundraising dollars in their school. So pretty cool stuff. I think we'll get an update on how much money, and then later on in the year, we'll get an update on how they decided to spend it. Thanks.
Excellent. Finance Committee, Mr. Porter or Mr. Wong?
The race.
Tag team.
So Finance Committee, no additional meetings or conversations from the last board meeting, but again, we'll be keeping an eye on the TIF situation and obviously legislation with SB 851 and how that's going to be impacting finances in the future for our district.
All right. Excellent. Equity Committee, Mr. Khan.
So yes, since the last meeting, we did receive data from Dr. Edgar, very useful information that kind of puts in kind of a very helpful format, kind of school by school, what the achievement gap in terms of, with respect to math testing is in all the different schools, and divided out on different categories. Categories related to free lunch students, and some related to English language learners. And I do think that obviously these need to be understood a little bit more in detail, see how some of these are maybe outliers for one reason or another. But just looking at them myself as a good stepping off point is that it looks to me that different schools have different gaps. I mean, that's a very basic thing that you can see, and it'd be interesting that we've had some meetings in each one of the schools just generally to see maybe we could glean from that some efforts that are working in some schools better than others based on why some gaps being larger than others. And I know that's an oversimplification for sure, but that's my initial thoughts of looking at the data. But I will be meeting with Mr. Smolka and Dr. Edgar so we can understand the statistics a little bit and come up with next steps to understand and hopefully solve the issues.
Thank you very much. Next on the agenda, we'd like to discuss changing the date for the April 11th, 2018 Board of Education meeting to April 18th. Is there any discussion? So, consider it changed. And thank you. And next, Mrs. Nuss, 2019-2020 school calendar discussion.
I'll handle that. She created it, did all the work, but I'll talk about it. So Lisa and her department looked at calendars from 211 and wanted to make sure that we were as aligned as possible with their breaks and their beginning dates and things like that. It's important that our 8th graders graduate by the time summer school starts. We need to have graduation in their facilities. So parents usually arrange vacations based upon kids' schedules. But if they've got kids in 2 systems, they have to try to make sure that the calendars align so they don't goof up their vacation schedules. So Lisa has created a 2019-2020 school calendar for your consideration. It is highly aligned to 211s, and we would like to post this on our website and let parents comment about it for the next month, and then bring it back to you for your consideration next month, so that people have plenty of time to plan vacations and know what the schedule is going to be for the 1920 school year. So if you have any comments or questions, feel free to send those in as well.
All right.
Dr. Thompson, is it, just so I'm reading this right, so we're saying May 21st would be the last day, if there were no snow days? So we have 1 snow day before we trip into Memorial Day week? Is that correct? Okay.
Correct. Yep. And our first day of school would be August 19th. The red dates there are teacher institute days.
Any further questions or comments? We will see it again next time. Last on board discussion and reports, Superintendent's Communication Committee, Dr. Thompson.
Yeah, Morgan has been working feverishly to revamp our website. She's been doing other work, and so I think in the near future we will be scheduling the Communications Committee to get together just to talk about some of those things, but we haven't had one since the last board meeting.
Okay. We will now open our meeting for public comment. Please remember that this is not a dialogue between you and the board. If you have a specific issue which requires a response, Superintendent Thompson will get back to you. Please state your name and identify any group that you represent, and limit your remarks to no more than 5 minutes, please. If someone previously has articulated something with which you agree, state that you agree, rather than reiterating the entire comment. Finally, avoid comments specific to any person, student, or staff member, respecting their right to privacy. This is not the forum to comment on personnel issues. The first person will be Melissa Applebaum, and if you'd like to grab the mic, that's right there, that would be great.
Hi, I'm a taxpayer and a parent of children who attend District 15. I've always been proud to have my children attend the District 15. Our district has always been known for putting children first and providing the best education for all our students. Our children have always had excellent teachers and have been provided the best education possible. But I've been extremely disappointed in the strike that has occurred, and I'm not disappointed in the ESP members, I'm disappointed in all of you and the superintendent. I'm so sad that your decisions have led to children not being able to attend school and to have their IEPs met. Every child is entitled to an education, and the fact that we've had school with not proper support in place for all students could be considered discriminatory. I'm honestly embarrassed to be a part of a community that would allow the superintendent to ask parents to consider not sending their children to school because other students need food and shelter. When the strike continued and the injunction was lifted, you should have made a decision to have school canceled. It was even argued in court that the reason you needed the injunction was that you needed the ESPA for our children to be adequately cared for. Instead of closing school, you chose to meet the majority of the students' needs instead of all our students' needs. Every child deserves and is entitled to an education, and there were students who were not in school based upon your decisions. Suggesting to parents that they should come to school to be their child's PA was also unfair, and it's not their job. It's your legal responsibility to educate all of our students. Parents who work then had other obligations were then forced to decide if they should go to school with their children, send their children to school and hope they would be safe, or keep them home and then their child would not receive an education. I am curious how you can choose one group of students over another and not think this is unfair to our special needs population. There are kids that need to be in school the most. They're the kids that need us the most. My concerns are not a reflection on the principals, the teachers, and the other staff in the buildings.
They have tried to be as creative as possible, but the reality is that you just didn't have the bodies to meet the needs of every student across the district. You should have closed school. Threatening to start replacing them is just another tactic that is also disappointing. Are you even aware? That's okay, I don't need it. I'm very loud.
We'd like to have
Are you sure? We'd like to.
Threatening to start replacing them is also another tactic that is very disappointing. Are you even aware of the number of open positions you currently have that were unfilled before the strike? Are you aware what the PAs and nurses are required to do every day? Have you shadowed them for a week to see what they do on a daily basis? Do you really know what their responsibilities are and why they are even being compensated? These people treat our children with compassion. They are the people who care for our children when they get sick at school. They wipe our children's tears when they get hurt on the playground, and they ensure that they are included every day. They ensure that my child is included every day. They go above and beyond. They keep my child safe and every child safe in this district. They are not only there to provide our children with a basic right to attend and participate in school, they're our family. They are the professionals, and we should be treating them that way. I know that the ESPA members have chosen to come back to work without a contract, and they are doing what is best for students. You need to do the same. You have a responsibility as a school board to ensure that all children are receiving an education and make sure that the superintendent is making fair choices for all of our students. This just needs to end. This has led to hurt feelings between parents, staff, and administration, and it's going to be difficult to repair. You are lucky more students did not get hurt, and many may have fallen further behind educationally due to these decisions. Many of us elected many of you to the school board because we had faith that you would make decisions that would keep all our students and welfare in mind. The ESPA is such an important part of our community. Please move to binding arbitration or just settle this matter now so we can do what's best for everyone. Start acting like the district that I once was so proud to be a part of. Concerned citizen, Melissa Applebaum.
Thank you. Barb Morris.
Good evening.
That's the bad one.
Oh, sorry.
Good evening, thank you. I'm Barbara Morris. I'm a resident and homeowner for the past 16 years in the district. I have one daughter who graduated from District 15 in 2014, so is no longer in the district. I have no vested interest in District 15 and ESPA negotiations other than the benefit of a thriving school system has on property values in any community. I do, however, have a strong passion for doing the right thing. And from what I've seen in these negotiations over the past few months, you, the Board of Education, and the District 15 administration, specifically Dr. Thompson, have not treated the ESPA members fairly. The ESPA proposal of a 2.5% annual salary increase over the next 5 years is not unreasonable. The cost of this proposal is barely a rounding error on the multi-million-dollar total budget in D15. The superintendent championed a lucrative 10-year contract for the professional staff in 2016. The wage impact on the teacher contract allows for 2.5% increases for the first 4 years, and then jumps to 4% increases in the last 6 years of the agreement. District 15 teachers are already some of the highest paid teachers in the state, and in 2016, they became the beneficiaries of a lucrative contract without any public disclosure until after the fact. Now let me be clear, I don't fault the teachers, and I believe good teachers are deserving of fair or even top salaries. That said though, I believe the fair thing to do for the District 15 family, as you refer to them, is to treat all of its members with the same respect the professional staff received. The support staff deserves a fair wage in addition to the fringe benefits of health insurance and retirement benefits offered across the district. Dr. Thompson has shown a negative bias toward the support staff by stating to me in an email, and I quote, I think it is safe to say that many of these members have taken the jobs to provide low-cost, excellent medical dental coverage for themselves and their families, unquote. You know, even if this is the case, and I don't believe anyone should be judged on the motivation of why they accept a position, the bottom line is these staff members deserve a fair wage. In this same email, Dr. Thompson stated to me a program assistant could earn up to $24.42 an hour over time, even though they started at a modest wage. And yes, I believe that is true. He failed, however, to point out that it would take 42 years to achieve such a wage. I am sure there are some ESPA workers who do work for insurance, and others who plan to work for 42 years. I am sure there are also many other motivations for each of the 465 team members. But I believe, based on my experience having a daughter who spent 8 years in the district, that moreover the ESPA majority, the majority of the ESPA staff, support staff, work for the kids and work for the school community. And their interest in a fair contract has much more to do with respect than anything else. I know the district can find the mere $65,000 annually it will take to fill the gap on the 2.5% wage proposal. And I had the benefit of sitting through Mike's presentation earlier, so we know that $65,000 would not be that difficult to find. Finally, I can imagine running a school district with 20 schools and 12,000 plus kids is challenging. This size district carries an awesome responsibility and yields power to all of you. I ask you, I beg you, I implore you to use your power to further the mission of the district with a connected learning environment, rather than driving a bigger wedge between you and the ESPA members. This agreement needs to get done. And you need to treat the ESPA as you have treated others and as you would expect to be treated. Stop paying the lawyers. Start paying.
Barbara, 5 minutes is up.
Okay, and if you can't get it done, go to binding arbitration.
Thank you, Barbara. Glenn Green.
Join the business. Okay. All right. Good evening, board members and fellow members of the audience. My name is Glenn Green. I'm a 26-year Palatine resident. Before I go to my main comments, I'd just like to put a different perspective on some of the two previous comments. Here's why a strike made no positive impact on the negotiations. It created varying levels of inconvenience and disruption, especially to special needs students and their families. It was a sign of disrespect for their students because their needs were rendered subservient to money. It doesn't enhance the respect that a majority of the community has for ESPA members and their devotion to the students. It rather reduced it. It certainly didn't increase the amount of D15 revenue in any way. It doesn't change the contractual amounts payable other under other existing labour agreements. The reality is that the pie is what the pie is, and the board, taxpayers, and the staff of the district have to understand that available financial and other resources that are scarce have to be subjected to a prioritisation process so that we can do the best of what we can. To the comments that a 2.5% increase is not unreasonable, I'd just like to counter that with the reality of the economics that were put forward in the financial projection today. The next year's retail or inflation adjustment is 0.7%. It's not 2.5%, it's less than 1/3 of that. For anyone who understands simple arithmetic, you will know that your revenue line is increasing at a slower rate than your expense line. When it crosses the revenue line, you have that structural deficit. That's not sustainable. In the real world, where many of us work, when your company's revenues suffer a setback or a shrinkage, you have to take some steps and share the pain and accept the reality that much as you may have done a superb job, there are some economic realities which get in the way. That's the life that most of us live in. Okay? I just want to refer to a couple of other points on the issue and netting it out. This is why I think that the board's last offer to ESPA is a fair one and should be accepted. Apart from the PTEL adjustment, the inflation next year being 2.7%, it's going to go to 2.1 the following year. If I go back to the last contract, the inflation rate, the base adjustment was 0.4% and the step adjustment was 1.85, giving a total adjustment in compensation for 5 years of 2.25%. In that same 5-year period, inflation averaged 1.36%. So people under this contract had the benefit of earning almost 0.9% above inflation rate. The current proposal is a 2% increase in total, 0.15 base, 1.85 in step. And that compares with an average for the last 4 months, inflation has been at 1.9% on average. It's 2.2% year on year right now, and as the historic trends on CPI show, that rate tends to decline towards the end of the year. So a 2% thing is pretty reasonable, and in my mind, it's hard to consider that unfair. The other big picture that everyone needs to understand is that in this community, there are about 60,000 taxpayers, actually registered voters. About 20,000 are parents. That leaves 40,000 other members of the same community. Their voices need to be brought to this table as well. Okay? District 15 as a district, as a community, faces some incredible financial challenges over the next few years. The financial projections for next year show massive maintenance expenses above normal, about $7.5 million. Okay? Facilities need upgrading or replacing. We know that came up, that was part of the referendum discussion last year. We have... Okay, I will do it, thank you. The reality is that we've got the inflation cap on this. I'll follow Dr. Thompson's guidance on this if you don't mind. You did the right thing, ESPA did the right thing returning to work with the students. The final step now is to negotiate this contract and let's move forward rebuilding the community. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Green. A couple quick comments as a response. We appreciate the input. Don't think for a minute that this board is not listening. I'm part of the negotiating team, as is Mr. Anarino and Mr. Wong. We have spent a lot of time working toward a contract. And I will say, sitting in that room, we've spent a lot of time making an effort to bargain in good faith. And Knowing that that is the case, what's seen outside the room versus what happens in the room is distinctly different clearly. But that doesn't change the fact that we are working towards it, we're trying. We've scheduled negotiating sessions that at this point have been canceled. We'll continue to move forward and hope that we get to a resolution, number one. Secondly, I am very disheartened and sad that the strike happened. I didn't think that it was something that needed to happen, and it certainly has driven a wedge in the community, as was mentioned by somebody. And it's something that I hope that can be recovered from. And that's not something that's one-sided. That's going to take a lot of effort on a lot of people's parts. And at this point, enough time has been spent on this. We need to come to a resolution. We need to close it up, and we need to move on and start fixing what's broken. So that's on that. On the second part of it, Mr. Green raised a couple of good points. We have some financial insecurity at this point. We don't know what's coming. So, and although it seems like it's small, there are other costs that are out there, and I think we need to look a little more big picture, first of all. Secondarily, there's a lot of conversation about an hourly rate, but we're not negotiating an hourly rate all by itself. If that were the case, it would have been done back in February when the prior board started this whole thing. It's a comprehensive package, which is inclusive of that hourly rate and benefits and other incentivization, as well as days off and things of that sort. It becomes quite complex, as all of you know, because you've seen that packet. It's not a one-page document with this is going to be a 2.5% increase. It is a 35, 40-page contract. So it is complex, and it needs the time to make it happen, but in order for something to come to closure, people have to be committed to make that happen, and that has to happen on both sides of the table. Thank you.
We want a fair contract.
So do we.
All right, action items. Item 17-1120, personnel report. May I have a motion, please?
I make a motion to approve the November 8th, 2017 personnel report as presented.
Second.
Discussion? Roll call?
Border.
Aye.
Kane. Khan.
Aye.
Smoka.
Aye.
Shupai.
Aye.
Wong.
Aye.
Anarino.
Aye.
Motion carries. Item 17-1121. May I have a motion for the bid award for water testing and analysis?
I make a motion to award the contract for the water testing and analysis bid 18-005 to Midwest Environmental, Yorkville, Illinois, for a total amount of $46,120 as recommended.
Second?
Second.
Discussion? Roll call?
Kane.
Aye.
Khan.
Aye.
Smoka.
Aye.
Shupai.
Aye.
Wong.
Aye.
Anarino.
Aye.
Border.
Aye.
Motion carries. Item 17-1122. May I have a motion, please?
I make a motion to award the request for proposals for workers' compensation insurance to the Illinois Counties Risk Management Trust, ICRMT, through Wine Sergey for the period of December 1st, 2017 through November 20th, 2020, in the amount of $155,413 as recommended.
Second?
Second.
Discussion? Roll call?
Khan.
Aye.
Smoka.
Aye.
Shupai.
Aye.
Wong.
Aye.
Anarino.
Aye.
Border.
Aye.
Kane.
Aye.
Motion carries. Item 17-1123. Motion, please?
Make a motion for acceptance of the fiscal year 2017 annual audit as presented.
Second?
Second.
Discussion? Roll call?
Smoka.
Aye.
Shupai.
Aye.
Wong.
Aye.
Anarino.
Aye.
Border.
Aye.
Kane.
Aye.
Khan.
Aye.
Motion carries. Item 17-1124. Motion, please?
I make a motion to approve the resolution estimating the aggregate levy for the year of 2017 as presented.
Second?
Second.
Discussion? Roll call.
Shupai?
Aye.
Wong?
Aye.
Anarino?
Aye.
Porter?
Aye.
Kane?
Aye.
Khan?
Aye.
Smolka?
Aye.
Motion carries. Item 17-1130, the consent calendar. Would anyone like to remove anything from the consent calendar? No? Second? Or may I have a motion to approve the consent calendar as it stands?
I make a motion to approve the consent calendar as presented.
Second?
Second.
Roll call?
Wong?
Aye.
Anarino?
Aye.
Porter?
Aye.
Kane?
Aye.
Khan?
Aye.
Smolka?
Aye.
Shupai?
Aye. Motion carries. Dr. Thompson, correspondence?
We had, looks like 8 requests for Freedom of Information Act requests during the last period. On October 2nd, 2017, a request was received from Kirk Allen, American Watchdogs, Inc., Paris, Illinois. The response to this request was sent on October 10th. On October 13th, a request was received from Angela Santoro. The response to this request was sent on October 20th. On October 17th, a request was received from Vicki Wilson, Palatine, Illinois. The response to this request was sent on October 20th. On October 20th, a request was received from David Hammer, Palatine, Illinois. The response to this request was sent on October 25th. On October 24th, a request was received from Joe Hart, Illinois Education Association, NEA, Libertyville, Illinois. The response to this request was sent on October 27th. On October 20th, a request was received from Brian Baer, Witt Law, Aurora, Illinois. An extension letter was sent on October 30th. On November 1st, a request was received from Scott Hare, Palatine, Illinois. The response to this request is pending. And on November 2nd, a request received from Kevin Lawson, Lombard, Illinois. The response to this request is pending.
Thank you very much. I'd like a motion to move to executive session.
I make a motion that the board go into executive session to discuss collective negotiation matters between the district and its employees or their representatives, or deliberations concerning salary schedules for one or more classes of employees.
Second?
Second.
Roll call.
Anarino?
Aye.
Porter?
Aye.
Kane?
Aye.
Khan?
Aye.
Smolka?
Aye.
Shupai?
Aye.
Wong?
Aye.
Motion carries. We're going to move to executive session. We'll come back, but there'll be no business after executive session. So if any